Prosecution star witness in the federal trial against Sean Diddy Combs taking the stand right now. Singer Cassie Ventura is detailing the abuse she alleges she endured during her decade-long relationship. Combs is accused of wielding a criminal enterprise to abuse dozens of women and girls throughout his career.
Will say is Cassie made a point to say that when she wasn't making music, she was actually having to, quote, recover from these freak-offs. And again,
I've been speaking to a producer about music. Sean called me a slut and I hit him in the face. I had been drinking. Then it goes on to say, did you see any injuries? Ventura says, no. And then Ventura says, I was on the floor of the car and he stomped on my face. How long did that last? The government asked. 10 minutes. Then I tried to get away, but Sean's security brought me back. Ooh.
The second day of testimony in Diddy's trial just concluded with Cassie taking the stand. She testified that Diddy forced her into sexual encounters with escorts and allegedly made escorts urinate on her, revealing horrific abuse details. Prosecutors have now brought forward one of these escorts to testify against Diddy, while hotel staff is disclosing that Diddy paid them for their silence. What caused Cassie to break down crying during her testimony? And what revelations did the escort share about Diddy?
The baby. Another twist. Two witnesses were called today, including a former security officer at the hotel, where Diddy is seen on video attacking Ventura brutally. You remember that video back in 2016. The prosecutors played the video. The witness testified that Diddy tried to pay him off with a giant wad of cash. The day's second witness was a male escort. This is where it really got very juicy, who says that he was paid by Diddy.
The abuse allegations against Diddy are truly disturbing and expose his appalling behavior. According to prosecutors, Diddy wasn't acting alone. His entire team, from chief of staff to bodyguards, reportedly participated in covering up his actions. Diddy would reportedly bribe hotel employees and allegedly once kidnapped Cassie when she attempted to escape him. The activities Diddy allegedly forced upon Cassie were reportedly so extreme that even his hired escort refused to participate.
Emily Johnson actually said that Cassie did choke on the urine of an escort when Diddy forced this escort to allegedly urinate in her mouth. They did say inner circle numerous times, I believe, really trying to amplify the RICO charges. Diddy couldn't have done all of these crimes without his inner circle, right? Without his bodyguard, without his driver, without his assistant. They talked about alleged kidnappings. That one time he kidnapped his assistant to go and try to find Cassie when he thought Cassie was cheating. I mean, it was wild. I feel like I could go on forever, but I won't.
Well, yeah, I mean, listen, the details are gross, and I think it's only going to get worse for you, Lauren, having to be in there. They start talking about the urination. I can only imagine where it's going to go from here. Caitlin, what about Cassie? I mean, a lot of people thought we were going to see Cassie today. You saw the photo. She is 9 months pregnant. Is she expected tomorrow? Sort of what's the plan?
Yes, I found his testimony to be incredibly believable. He seemed genuinely affected by what he saw happen to Cassie. This man truly seemed to care about Cassie. He did have, whatever you want to call it, some kind of relationship with her for probably about 1.5 years. And he actually testified that he, at a certain point, wasn't able to perform for Diddy and Cassie. He got erectile dysfunction because of what he saw. He said he saw Diddy at one point after an encounter drag Cassie by the hair from her computer seat all the way back to her bedroom while she was kicking and screaming and crying. And after she apologized and came out, he said that Diddy said, okay, you guys want to continue? And he couldn't perform. And that was it. From there, he could not perform after that. And he saw Diddy abuse Cassie 2 or 3 more times after that as well. And this is a muscular guy. He was 41 years old, a bit smaller, but again, he seemed incredibly affected by what he saw.
Diddy allegedly showed complete disregard for Cassie's well-being, reportedly beating, dragging, and punching her when she refused to participate in what were termed Freakoff sessions. These sessions allegedly continued for days, with Cassie requiring intravenous fluids to recover from exhaustion. The first time Diddy allegedly drugged Cassie, she was completely unaware. Her drink was reportedly spiked, and only after the encounter ended did Diddy supposedly reveal he had given her ecstasy.
Lunch. Cassie Ventura described how Freakoffs actually became a job, lasting 36 to 48 hours, the longest one lasting up to 4 days. No wonder the participants needed IV fluids after a Freakoff. I'm just curious, to Lauren Cullen joining us at the courthouse, how was the jury responding?
What I will say is Cassie made a point to say that when she wasn't making music, she was actually having to, quote, recover from these freak-offs. And again, she did say these freak-offs lasted between 1 and 4 days, and it would take her an equal amount of time to get her body recovered, to rehydrate, to rest, to detox from these drugs. It's sad to listen to.
Yeah, I'm curious to Rob Shooter.
Cassie was reportedly just 22 when Diddy began forcing her participation in drug-fueled encounters. These sessions allegedly lasted between 1 to 4 days, during which Diddy would reportedly force Cassie to engage in relations with various escorts while he watched. Cassie claims these encounters, occurring multiple times monthly, were almost always recorded, and recovery would take her weeks.
More of these salacious and tough questions. You know, she did, and again, you said it, but I need to reiterate, these will be disturbing descriptions that I will repeat that she said on the stand. At one point, she said that a male escort had urinated in her mouth and she actually choked on it. And it was at that point someone in the courtroom actually had to walk out of the door there while, you know, Diddy sat at the defense table listening on here. But as she was describing these events where she said that, you know, there were multiple male escorts that were happening at one time. These freak-offs would happen for 2, 3, the longest 4 days at a time. And control is the word we need to talk about. That is what prosecutors really laid out. And you heard Cassie describe how every action during these freak-offs, which were between her and male escorts, not necessarily between her and her boyfriend, Sean Diddy Combs. He sat off to the side really directing C, but he was in control, she said, of exactly how they did everything, from the platform shoes that she needed to wear, the clothes that she needed to wear occasionally, masks, wigs, whether or not the male escort could ejaculate, where he could ejaculate. Everything she said was controlled by him. And mind you, Brian, his children, 6 children, are in the courtroom at this point listening to all of this. And the jury was picked knowing that they needed a certain level of comfort to hear these types of descriptions. It was very emotional and really tough to hear, Brian. But to be clear, if these are in fact consensual acts, as the defense is going to claim, there's nothing wrong with.
Conditions were reportedly so terrible that even the escorts became concerned about Cassie's welfare. After Pagisais, witnessing Diddy allegedly brutally attack Cassie when she couldn't perform, the escorts became uncomfortable. David, an escort hired by Diddy, testified that after seeing Diddy strike Cassie, he couldn't continue participating in the session.
Well, so this is more corroboration. This is more support that prosecutors are trying to build in to Cassie Ventura's testimony. Of course, the surveillance video of the hotel assault is the most important piece, but now we're seeing the prosecutors use some other pieces of evidence, selfies, text messages, emails, things that were on Cassie Ventura's phone, because they want the jury to believe her unconditionally. And I want to make an important point here, that the defense argument is that it's important to know, and I think prosecutors are going to argue this, those things are not mutually exclusive. It can be both. In fact, one of the things prosecutors have to show is that there was force or coercion. And so that beating, if I was the prosecutor, I would argue, yeah, you bet it's...
Because the argument could be made that from the prosecution side is that was a form of coercion, that
exactly.
Perhaps she was afraid that she would get beaten up, and that is why she did some of these acts. And we should note, she talked about the selfies where she had a swollen lip and a black eye under her sunglasses. So clearly the prosecution is trying to draw that out. Wolf.
And it's interesting, Elise, because right now we're being told by our reporters who are inside the courtroom that Cassie Ventura reviewed a binder of more than a dozen photos that were shown, and clearly she was upset. She said she typically reached out to escorts to arrange these freak-offs because it was her job, and she felt she would be punished if she didn't do that.
Yeah, that's incredibly important because remember, the defense opened on the fact that Ventura was a willing participant. That's their theory of the case, that she was Combs's lover and she wanted to be there. And so they had to grapple, the prosecution had to grapple with the fact that Ventura was the one that was arranging some of these freak-offs.
That, and again, let's remember, we all have sisters, mothers, aunts, women that we care about. And I think that it is critical that the government, whether it be on the state level or the federal level, takes these types of cases seriously. Because again, it's not just about a couple freak-offs. It's about the fact that someone was brutalized and forced against their will. I think that the government should be spending millions of dollars to let folks know that it doesn't matter how wealthy you are or how broke you are. If you are abusing people, you need to be held accountable. Period. End of story.
Text messages between Diddy and Cassie presented in court reportedly demonstrate Diddy was forcing Cassie into these encounters. One witness testifying today was a female escort previously hired by Diddy. After the case was filed, Diddy allegedly contacted her offering payment to claim she wasn't coerced. Notably, she recorded this conversation. During testimony, Cassie broke down crying while explaining how Diddy was essentially trafficking her to other men. When Cassie became exhausted during these multi-day sessions, if Cassie attempted to resist, Diddy would allegedly become violent and enraged.
Among other things, the singer is expected to address the 2016 video of Combs attacking her in a hotel when she was his girlfriend. Combs has pleaded not guilty. His attorneys argue the video is evidence.
Well, Diane, prosecutors have wasted no time getting right into the alleged abuse that Cassie Ventura says she endured for years. Ventura telling jurors, quote, "He would bash my head, knock me over, drag me, kick me, stomp me in the head when I was down." She also got into the nature of those so-called freak-offs, saying that they involved hiring an escort and they performed under the direction of Combs, saying that they happened so frequently it eventually became a job for her to set them up. Ventura said she did not feel she had much of a choice but to participate, that she feared that Combs would retaliate or potentially blackmail her if she did not. And she's had at times to take, she's taken deep breaths, pausing her testimony, Combs appearing to be listening pretty passively with his hands in his lap at the defense table there. Now remember, this is the first time that they are seeing each other face to face since 2018. You can imagine that emotions are very high in the courtroom right now. And this is expected to be a very lengthy testimony. Prosecutors bracing the courtroom for what's to come as she continues to testify, including videos of these alleged freak-offs.
Of Cassie's relationship with Diddy. Some of those details we've seen in prior lawsuits, but to hear her on the stand actually giving those details, reliving those moments herself. Also, you have to remember, she's very pregnant right now. So I'm gonna be curious to see how long she makes it on the stand, how she's emotionally able to weather all of these questions. And what's gonna be interesting to watch is, you know, the defense from the very start in their opening statement said that she chose to be there. So I'm going to be curious to see how she responds to questions about, was this her choice or did she feel like she had to do all of these things?
But I can say, you know, it'll be interesting to see how they react and respond to the alleged victim, Cassie Ventura, because she is expecting her third child and is clearly pregnant. So how jurors will kind of see that or visually how they take that into consideration, we don't know, but really they're supposed to make sure that they stay fair and impartial and pay attention to the facts, which is something even the judge warned them about before they were official jurors.
Today we also saw the entire family, his children, his mother, make their way into the court. How much could that potentially sway jurors as well?
One of the things that I thought was so interesting is watching what I could see the faces of his children when they were talking about, the prosecution was talking about the things that he was alleged to have done, beating women, using words like penetrating. I mean, these are 3 of his daughters that we saw in court, at least 2 of his sons, his mother literally 6 feet away from him in the second bench. So to see his family here, which we've seen in previous hearings, though, clearly supporting him, his daughters and his sons sort of united when they walked in with their hands together, holding each other's hands. So it's obvious that the family is united in terms of representing strength and love and all of those things, but it must be incredibly hard as his children to hear some of the details of what the prosecution alleges happened.
Cassie also testified that Diddy was unfaithful to her while simultaneously dating Kim Porter. It's worth noting that Cassie was only 19 when her relationship with Diddy began, while Diddy was approaching 40 years old.
Cassie Ventura is sharing new details about her relationship with Sean Diddy Combs. While testifying against her ex in his sex trafficking trial, the pregnant singer, who is currently expecting her third child with husband Alex Fine, reveals to the jury that there was actually an overlap for when she and the late Kim Porter dated the rap mogul. In court, Ventura says, per NBC News, that she and Combs first started their physical relationship when they went on a trip to Miami. It was when they returned home that they began spending more time together, though the relationship was, quote, not public for many years. Ventura adds that Combs didn't want it to, quote, look bad, but also knew it was because of his children and personal things like his family. When she was asked who he was with at the time, Ventura replies, quote, Kim Porter. Combs and Porter, who unexpectedly died in 2018, reportedly dated on and off from 1994 to 2007. With them becoming parents to son Christian, twin daughters Delilah and Jessie, and Porter's son Quincy, whom she had from a previous relationship. Their romance ended in 2007, with her choosing to pack up all of her belongings and move out of their home while Combs was out of town. Porter has previously said to Essence magazine that she wanted it to be, quote, dramatic, adding, quote, if I pack up everything, twins and all, it means I'm out. Puffy's an action person, not a talk person. Ventura and Combs reportedly dated from 2007 to 2018, with her sharing after their romance that he was frequently violent towards the end of their relationship. Last May, a 2016 video of the rapper assaulting her surfaced. In hotel surveillance video published by CNN, Combs was seen chasing the singer down a hotel hallway before grabbing her, pulling her to the ground, and kicking her multiple times. The footage appeared to match up with an alleged incident detailed in the singer's lawsuit filed against the Grammy winner. For up-to-date details,
security personnel from the hotel where Diddy allegedly assaulted Cassie in 2016 were called as witnesses. One guard testified that Diddy offered payment for his silence about the incident and personally witnessed Diddy forcing Cassie to stay with him. This testimony revealed that Cassie was allegedly trying to escape from a man in the room while Diddy was forcing her to have relations with him.
They're admitting that up front, that he's not charged, they say, with being a jerk or being mean, that violence is not part of these charges. And so it's really interesting how they are walking these lines, and they really tried to walk the line with blaming the victim in the beginning, in these opening statements. They didn't go that far, but they alleged that the women that you're going to hear from in this testimony, they say they're strong women, that they're women who had free will, that they could have left at any time. And they said that these women were able to get things from Sean Combs that they wanted. They essentially are saying this is all about money, that he paid their bills, he made sure they drove nice cars, lived in good houses, had spending money, went on private planes, on nice vacations. They're saying that they could have left at any time and that instead they were able to benefit from Sean Combs. And that's why even somebody like Cassie, who filed that suit first and was able to be paid, they are essentially criticizing her. Now, when we hear from Cassie, could be today, it definitely will be this week. She's one of the first few expected to testify. She is pregnant, and she is pregnant with her third child, something that they made sure to mention, that she's married to someone who Sean Combs introduced her to. So you can see how the defense is really going to try to weave.
Judge Aaron Subramanian has ruled that the explicit videos showing Cassie and other alleged victims being acts will not be shown to the public or media. I see no precedent suggesting that images or videos depict shown in open court when they clearly risk re-victimizing the victims, the judge stated.
Well, I think we're going to learn a lot about the nature of Cassie's relationship with Diddy. Some of those details we've seen in prior lawsuits, but to hear her on the stand actually giving those details, reliving those moments herself. Also, you have to remember, she's very pregnant right now. So I'm going to be curious to see how long she makes it on the stand, how she's emotionally able to weather all of these questions. And what's going to be interesting to watch is, you know, the defense from the very start in their opening statement said that she chose to be there. So I'm going to be curious to see how she responds to questions about, was this her choice or did she feel like she had to do all of these things?
Diddy allegedly used his employees to monitor Cassie. In testified her testimony, Cassie mentioned several of Diddy's staff and associates, including his trusted assistants Christina Carorum and Neil Dominic. Everything from his scheduling to his moods, Cassie explained when asked what she discussed with Carorum. I shared many personal things with Carorum. She knew a lot about my private life. Cassie also claimed Diddy's security guard Rock would confiscate her belongings as punishment on Diddy's orders and would locate her when she tried hiding from Diddy. My car would be taken away, I'd be evicted from apartments, my jewelry confiscated. The punishment was unpredictable depending on Diddy's mood. Now, despite all these revelations, Diddy apparently hasn't abandoned his previous behaviors, and witnesses have reportedly started disappearing. Forced encounters with escorts, physical violence, and manipulation detailed in emotional testimony hotel. Staff, security guards, and even escorts confirm disturbing patterns of behavior. Text messages, recorded calls, and multiple witness accounts paint a devastating picture. Reports indicate witnesses have begun mysteriously disappearing as trial continues. Follow our coverage for minute-by-minute updates on this developing story.